My lawyer did not raise her voice when she told me my husband had transferred our house to his mother. She only slid the certified file across her desk and pointed to one blank line. My signature was missing. For 2 weeks, Adrian had looked me in the eyes and told me the house was gone. He said there was nothing I could do. His mother, Maris, had already started walking through my kitchen like she owned the air in it. She moved my father's picture from the hallway and said, "Your father helped, Naomi. That does not mean this house belongs to you." That house was the last promise my father had left me. Before he died, he gave me money to help secure it. He told Adrian that if life ever turned against me, I should always have one door I could open. Adrian held my hand that day. He promised he understood. Then, after my father was gone, he used that same house to make me feel homeless. When Elise, my lawyer, showed me the official transfer packet, I stared at the empty signature line until the words blurred. Adrian had shown me a copy that looked complete. He had spoken with such calm power that I believed I had already lost. But the official file told a different story. And the moment Adrian heard Elise had requested the certified records, his voice changed. He did not sound sorry anymore. He sounded scared. He told me I was making a mistake. He said lawyers twisted simple things. Then Maris called and said I should stop before I embarrass myself in front of people who knew how property really worked. That was when I understood something. They were not angry because I was wrong. They were angry because I had finally asked the right person to look. If you have ever been made to feel like you had no right to ask questions, tell me where you are listening from and what time it is there. Stories like this need witnesses. And if you want to hear how one missing signature broke open the truth, please subscribe when you are ready, because what Elise found next made me question every paper Adrian had ever asked me to trust. It started with the copy he showed me. I remembered the night Adrian placed it on the kitchen table. He did not throw it down or wave it in my face. That would have been easier to fight. He set it down gently like a doctor giving bad news and said, "Naomi, I need you to understand. This has already been done." The paper had signatures on it, stamps, dates, a long row of words I could barely read because my hands were shaking. I saw Maris's name where my home should have been, and I felt something inside me go very quiet. Now, sitting in Elise Carter's office, I looked at the certified file and felt that same quiet return. But this time, it was different. It was not the quiet of defeat. It was the quiet that comes right before you finally understand you have been lied to. Elise placed Adrian's copy beside the certified packet. "Look here," she said. The first page looked almost the same. The address was the same. The transfer date was the same. Maris's name was there. Adrian's signature was there. Then Elise turned to the page Adrian had never explained. On his copy, the bottom corner was cut off by the scan. It looked like a bad copy, something old or rushed. I had not questioned it because I had been too scared to breathe. But on the certified file, that same section was clear. There was a line for my acknowledgement. It was blank. Under it, in small words, someone had typed, "Spouse signature not received." I touched the edge of the page, but I did not pick it up. I was afraid my fingers would shake too much. So I was supposed to sign this. I asked. Elise nodded. At the very least, this shows the version he gave you did not tell the whole story. That was the first answer. The missing signature was mine, not some random office mistake, not a page that did not matter. Mine. Before I could speak again, my phone lit up. "Adrian." Then another message. "Do not let that lawyer confuse you. She is making this worse." A minute later, Maris called. I did not answer. I watched her name flash on my screen until it stopped. Then she sent one sentence. "You are embarrassing your father by dragging his name into this." For a moment, all the air left me. My father had trusted Adrian. He had held Adrian's hand before he died, and asked him to protect me. And now Adrian's mother was using that same memory to shame me into silence. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. Instead, I took screenshots of every message and forwarded them to Elise. Then I opened the Notes app on my phone and typed the first line of a timeline. The day Adrian showed me the transfer papers. Elise watched me do it, then said, "Good. Start with what he showed you. Then we will compare it to what the office actually kept." That was when the deeper question opened. If Adrian's copy was only a piece of the truth, what else had he cut away before handing it to me? To answer that, I had to go back to the house before Maris started calling it hers. Back to the days when I still believed every wall in that place was protecting me. Before all those papers, before the missing signature, before Maris started saying the house belonged to her, that home had been the safest place I knew. My father used to sit on the front step with a cup of tea in his hand and look at the porch like it was already protecting me. He was sick by then, but he tried to hide how tired he was. Some mornings, his voice sounded strong. Other mornings, it sounded like every word cost him something. One afternoon, he handed me a folder with bank papers inside. I did not understand at first. He told me it was money he had saved for me. Not for dresses, not for vacations, not for anything careless. He said it was for the house, for the down payment, for repairs, for whatever would keep one roof over my head when he was not there to help me anymore. Then he looked at Adrian. "Promise me," my father said, "if life ever turns against her, this house stays her safe place." Adrian held his hand and promised. I remembered crying after that, not because I was scared of losing the money, but because I knew my father was saying goodbye in the only way he could. He was leaving me a door, a place, a piece of safety with walls around it. After he died, I treated that house like it still had his heartbeat in it. I painted the small room near the back because he had once said the light was good there. I planted rosemary by the kitchen window because he loved the smell of it. I kept his picture in the hallway where I could see it every morning before work. Adrian used to kiss my forehead when he found me standing there too long. "He would be proud of you," he would say. I believed him. When bills came, I paid what I could. When the sink leaked, I called the plumber. When the roof needed patching, I used part of my savings and told myself that every repair was one more way to keep my father's promise alive. Adrian handled the paperwork. That had always been his job. He was better with forms, dates, passwords, and official words. I handled the home itself. Groceries, cleaning, repairs, paint colors, the garden, the quiet things that made rooms feel loved. Back then, that felt like teamwork. Now, looking back, I could see how dangerous that trust had become. Because the first crack did not look like a betrayal. It looked like help. Maris started visiting more after my father died. At first, she brought food and sat with me in the kitchen. She would touch my shoulder and say, "Grief makes women fragile. You should let Adrian handle things." I thought she was being kind. Then she began staying longer. She moved a vase from the table. She folded my curtains differently. She told Adrian the hallway looked too much like a shrine because of my father's picture. One evening, I came home and found the picture moved from the hallway to the side shelf in the guest room. When I asked Adrian about it, he sighed like I was making trouble over nothing. "Mom just thought it looked better there," he said. I put the picture back that night. The next morning, it was turned face down. That was the first time the house felt colder than it should have. The next morning, I stood in the hallway with my father's picture in my hands. The glass was cold under my fingers. His face looked back at me like he was still asking if I was safe. I wanted to tell myself it was only a small thing. A picture moved. A frame turned over. A mother-in-law who did not understand grief. But something inside me had gone quiet again. Not scared quiet. Warning quiet. When I asked Adrian if Maris had touched the picture again, he did not look at me right away. He kept scrolling on his phone and said, "Naomi, you have to stop treating every little thing like an attack." That became his favorite word for me. Little. A little mistake. A little change. A little paperwork. A little help from his mother. Whenever I asked about the house, he made my questions sound small. If a letter came and disappeared before I opened it, he said he had handled it. If I asked why I no longer saw certain emails, he said they were going to his account because he was better at keeping records. If I asked about tax forms, insurance papers, or notices, he would kiss my forehead and say, "I do not want you stressing over things you do not understand." At the time, I thought he was protecting me. Now I could see it was another kind of lock. Maris started using words that made my stomach tighten. She would stand in my kitchen and say, "This house needs stronger family hands." Or, "A woman should know when something is only being shared with her." One night, while I was washing dishes, she said, "Your father gave what he could, but that does not mean he bought you a throne." I dropped a glass in the sink. Adrian heard it break and came in fast, but he did not ask if I was cut. He looked at his mother first. "Mom did not mean it like that," he said. That was another red flag I missed. He always explained her cruelty before he comforted my pain. Then there was the mail. For months after my father died, I barely noticed how many envelopes Adrian picked up before I got home. He said bills came in his name. He said property letters were boring. He said if anything serious arrived, he would show me. But he did not show me everything. I remembered one afternoon when I saw Maris's address written on a folded paper near his laptop. When I asked why her address was on something connected to our house, Adrian shut the laptop too fast. "It is just easier for some notices," he said. "Mom keeps files better than we do." I let it go. I let too many things go. Back then, I thought love meant not making every question a fight. I thought marriage meant trusting the person who said he was carrying the heavy parts for you. But now, after Elise showed me the certified file, all those little moments stood up like witnesses. The moved picture, the missing mail, the laptop closed too fast, the way Adrian used my grief to make me tired, the way Maris spoke about my father's money like it had entered her family and stopped belonging to me. And then I remembered the first time Adrian said his mother's name might need to be on something for protection. He had said it so gently that I had almost thanked him. That night, I did not sleep. I sat at the kitchen table with my father's picture beside me and Adrian's copy of the transfer papers in front of me. The house was quiet, but it did not feel peaceful anymore. It felt like every wall was holding its breath. For a long time, I only stared at the papers. Then I opened my laptop. If Adrian wanted me to believe I had no claim, I needed to understand what he had hidden. I started with the things I could prove without asking him for anything. First, I searched for every bill connected to the house. Water, electric, repairs, insurance, paint, the plumber who fixed the sink, the roof patch after the storm, the garden stones I had bought because my father used to say the yard needed something steady. One by one, I saved the receipts into a folder. Then I found the bank record from the money my father had given me. My hands slowed when I saw the date. It was from before he died. The note beside the transfer said, "For the house." Only 3 words. But those 3 words broke me more than I expected. I pressed my fingers against my mouth and tried not to make a sound. Adrian was upstairs. I could hear him moving around like nothing in the world had changed. For him, maybe it had not. For me, every receipt felt like proof that I had been building a home while he had been building a way to take it. I opened my messages next. There were texts from Adrian after my father died. "We will protect what he helped us start. This house is still yours, Naomi. Do not worry about the paperwork. I have it handled." I saved each one. Then I searched Maris's messages. That was harder. Her words made my skin feel hot. "You should be grateful, Adrian. lets you stay calm right now. Your father did what he could, but the house is still a veil matter. Do not confuse grief with ownership. I screenshotted those two. My phone buzzed before I could finish. Adrian, where are you? I looked toward the ceiling. He was still in the house. He was texting me from upstairs instead of walking down. Another message came. Stop sending things to that lawyer until we talk. I did not answer. A third message followed. You are making yourself look unstable. My first instinct was to defend myself, to explain, to tell him I was not unstable. I was scared. I was hurt. I was finally awake. But Elise's voice came back to me. Do not argue with pressure. Preserve it. So I took screenshots and added them to the folder. Then I did something I had never done before. I made a timeline. The day my father gave me the money. The day Adrian promised him. The first time Maris moved the picture. The missing property letters. The day Adrian showed me the transfer copy. The day Elise found the blank signature line. The timeline was messy at first. It had gaps, half-remembered dates, notes with question marks. But as I built it, I felt something inside me shift. I was not just a wife trying to explain pain anymore. I was a witness. By sunrise, the folder had bills, messages, receipts, screenshots, and Adrian's copy of the transfer papers. I sent it all to Elise with one line. I do not know if this proves anything, but this is what I have. She replied 20 minutes later. It proves enough to ask for the records he did not give you. And that was when I understood the next step was not another argument with Adrian. It was finding out what the office had actually kept. Elise called me that afternoon. I was still at the kitchen table, wearing the same clothes from the night before. My coffee had gone cold beside the folder of receipts, messages, and screenshots. Adrian had left for work without saying goodbye, but before he walked out, he looked at the table and said, "You are going to regret making this official." I waited until his car pulled away before I answered Elise's call. "Naomi," she said, "I need you to listen carefully. The copy he gave you is not enough. Copies can leave things out. They can be scanned badly. They can be chosen on purpose. What matters now is the certified file." I looked at Adrian's papers on the table. "They look official," I said. "They were meant to," she answered. That sentence made my stomach turn. Elise explained it in simple words. If Adrian had transferred the house to Maris, there should be a full record of what was filed, what was accepted, where notices were sent, and which pages were part of the transfer packet. She was not going to argue with Adrian's version. She was going to ask the office for theirs. "The office keeps what people cannot easily change after the fight starts," she said. For the first time, I understood why Adrian had been so angry about the lawyer. He was not afraid of me crying. He was not afraid of me calling him cruel. He was afraid of someone asking for the records he did not control. Elise told me she was requesting the certified property transfer file, the title notes, the mailing information, and any page connected to my acknowledgement or consent. I repeated the last words, slowly. "My acknowledgement." "Yes," she said. "That blank line matters because it shows there was at least one part of the story he did not give you." I closed my eyes. For days, Adrian had made me feel stupid for not understanding property papers. Now, Elise was telling me the problem was not that I failed to understand. The problem was that he may have only shown me what helped him scare me. Before we ended the call, she gave me one clear instruction. Do not ask Adrian for explanations right now. Do not warn Maris about what we are requesting. Save every message. Write down every date you remember. Let the records speak first. I wrote that on a sticky note. Let the records speak first. An hour later, Maris came to the house. She did not knock. She stepped into the kitchen, saw the folders on the table, and laughed once under her breath. "You think paperwork is going to make you family?" she asked. I wanted to answer her. I wanted to say my father's money had helped build the home she was now walking through like a queen, but I remembered Elise's warning. So I only picked up my phone and turned on the voice memo app without hiding it. Maris saw the screen and stopped smiling. For the first time, she looked careful. That was when I knew Elise was right. Their power worked best when nobody kept a record. And while Maris stood in my kitchen choosing her next words, Elise was already asking the title office for the file Adrian had never wanted me to see. Maris did not stay long after she saw the voice memo app open. Her face changed first. Then her voice did. "You are recording me now?" she asked. "I am keeping records," I said. Those words felt strange in my mouth. Stronger than I felt. Cleaner than any argument I could have made. Maris stared at me like she did not know who had taught me to stand up straight. Then she picked up her purse from the chair and walked toward the door. "You will regret turning this into a fight," she said. After she left, the house felt too quiet again. I stopped the recording and saved it with the date. My hands shook after that, but I still sent the file to Elise. She replied with one short message. "Good. Keep everything." That evening, Adrian came home with flowers. That scared me more than anger would have. He stood in the doorway holding a small bunch of white lilies, the kind my father used to bring my mother when she was alive. Adrian knew that. He knew exactly what those flowers meant in my family. "Naomi," he said softly, "can we talk like husband and wife for 5 minutes?" I did not move from the kitchen table. The folders were still there. So was my father's picture. I had put it beside me, like a witness. Adrian looked at the picture, then at me. His face softened in a way that almost worked. "I know this got ugly," he said. "I know Mom can be too direct, but nobody was trying to hurt you." I waited. He set the flowers on the counter. "The transfer was just protection," he said. "There were financial things you did not understand. I did not want you stressed. Your father would have wanted me to protect you from that." The moment he said my father, something cold moved through me. A day earlier, he had said the transfer was final. Before that, he had said it was none of my concern. Now, it was protection. His story kept changing, but his goals stayed the same. "Stop asking." "Elise requested the certified file," I said. His jaw tightened, just for a second. Then he smiled again. "Lawyers make simple things sound dangerous," he said. "That is how they get paid." I looked at the flowers. I looked at the folder. Then I looked back at him. Was I supposed to sign something? I asked. He blinked. Not long. Not enough for someone else to notice. But I noticed. "You signed plenty of things over the years," he said. "That is not what I asked." His voice dropped. "Naomi, do not do this. Do not waste the last of your father's money-fighting paperwork. You do not understand." I went still. I had never told him I was using the last of my father's money for a lawyer. I had never said those words to Maris either. But he knew. I did not accuse him. I did not cry. I picked up my phone under the table and typed one sentence into my notes. "Adrian knows about Dad's remaining money." Then I added the time. Adrian watched me, and for the first time, his soft voice disappeared. "Who are you writing to?" he asked. "No one," I said. "I am just keeping records." He looked at the folders again, and I saw the fear he was trying to hide. That was when I understood Elise was not only looking for a missing signature. She was about to find out who had been watching my father's money before I even knew I needed to protect it. The next morning, Elise called before I had even finished making coffee. Her voice was calm, but there was something underneath it. Not excitement, not anger, more like the careful tone of someone holding a match near dry paper. "The certified file came in," she said. I sat down. Adrian was upstairs getting ready for work, and for a second, I almost lowered my voice like I was the one doing something wrong. Then I remembered the folders on my table, the screenshots, the voice recording. The blank line where my name should have been. What did it say? I asked. Elise took a breath. The official packet confirms the acknowledgement page is incomplete. Your signature is not there, and there is a note attached to that section. My fingers tightened around the mug. What note? She read it slowly. Spouse signature not received. I closed my eyes. The same words I had seen in her office were now part of the official record. Not a bad scan. Not something I had misunderstood. Not a missing corner on Adrian's copy. The office had kept the truth. Elise continued. This does not mean I can promise you one exact outcome today. But it does mean Adrian's claim that everything was clean and final is not safe anymore. We can challenge the way this was handled. For the first time in weeks, I felt my body take a full breath. Then she said the words that made it real. I am sending a formal notice today. Adrian will know the transfer is being questioned. I looked toward the stairs. Adrian came down 5 minutes later, already dressed, already holding his phone. He did not say good morning. He just looked at me like he had read something he was not supposed to see. What did you do? He asked. I did not answer right away. That silence bothered him more than shouting would have. His phone buzzed again. He looked down. His face changed, not enough to fall apart, but enough for me to see the crack. Elise contacted you? I asked. His eyes snapped back to mine. You have no idea what you are starting, he said. I stood slowly. My knees felt weak, but my voice did not. No, I said. I think I am finally finding out what you started. He laughed once, but it sounded wrong. You think one missing line saves you? You think a lawyer can turn this house back into some gift from your father? There it was again. My father. Every time Adrian got scared, he reached for the deepest wound. But this time, it did not silence me. Elise said the official file matters. I said. His jaw moved like he was biting back words. Then he stepped closer. Naomi, listen to me. If you keep pushing, this will get ugly. You will lose more than the house. I looked at the man who had once promised my dying father I would always have a safe place. Now he was warning me that safety could still be taken if I did not behave. My phone buzzed next. Maris. I did not answer. Then her message came through. You should have stayed quiet while people still felt sorry for you. I stared at those words until they stopped hurting and started explaining things. Adrian could pretend this was paperwork. Maris could pretend this was family business. But the moment the official record showed that my signature was missing, they both stopped sounding certain. That was the first strike. Not a court victory. Not the end. Just one blank line in the right file. And it was enough to make them afraid. By evening, Maris was at my door again. And this time, she was not pretending to be kind. By evening, Maris was at my door again. This time, she did not bring food. She did not pretend to check on me. She stood on the porch with her purse tucked under her arm and looked past my shoulder into the house like she was inspecting something that had already been promised to her. Move, she said. I stayed where I was. For a second, I saw surprise in her eyes. She was used to me stepping back, used to me making room, used to me shrinking because she was Adrian's mother, and I had been raised to respect people who were older than me. But respect had become the blanket she used to cover cruelty. This is not a good time, I said. It became my time when you dragged my name into legal papers, she said. I kept one hand on the door and the other around my phone. I was not recording yet, but I was ready. Maris saw the phone and smiled. Oh, now you need proof for every conversation. No, I said. Only the ones people deny later. Her mouth tightened. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You think that blank line makes you powerful? You think one missing signature changes what this house is? I did not answer. She pointed toward the hallway, where I had put my father's picture back, where it belonged. That man gave you money, she said. He did not buy you a crown. My throat tightened, but I kept still. That money helped secure my home, I said. Maris laughed, but there was no humor in it. Your home, she said. Naomi, your father's money went into a house my son carried. My son handled the papers. My son protected the name. You were grieving too much to even know what was happening. The words hit harder than I expected, not because they were true, because they were too specific. She knew the exact wound. She knew Adrian had handled the papers. She knew I had been too broken after my father's death to watch every document. She was not guessing. She had been close enough to the plan to know how they had used my grief. I looked at her face and finally understood something I should have seen earlier. Maris had never been only Adrian's mother in this. She had been his shield, his excuse, his second voice when he needed someone to hurt me more openly than he could. Then she said the sentence that changed everything. You should have let the house stay under family control before you buried the rest of your father's money in it. I went cold. The rest of my father's money. I had never told Maris there was more money. I had never told her I planned to use it for repairs. I had only written that in one private message to Adrian months before the transfer. My hand moved before I could second-guess myself. I opened my phone and tapped record. Say that again, I said. Maris's eyes dropped to the screen. For the first time since she arrived, she stopped talking. The silence told me enough. I stepped back and closed the door before she could turn cruel again. Then I locked it, saved the recording, and sent Elise a message. Maris knew about Dad's repair money. Elise replied, almost at once. Ask yourself how she knew. I looked toward the stairs, toward the room where Adrian used to keep the house files, and suddenly part 8 was no longer about Maris at my door. It was about the conversation I needed to have with my husband. Adrian came home after 9. I heard his key before I saw him. The sound used to make me feel safe. That night, it made my whole body tighten. I was waiting at the kitchen table, not crying, not pacing, not holding flowers he had chosen to soften me. Just sitting there with my phone beside me, my father's picture near my hand, and 2 files open in front of me. Adrian stopped when he saw them. What is this? He asked. The copy you gave me, I said, and the certified file Elise requested. His eyes moved to the papers, then to my face. You need to stop letting that woman fill your head, he said. I slid his copy forward. Why is the bottom corner cut off? He did not answer. I pointed to the certified page. Why does the official file show a blank line where my acknowledgement should be? His jaw tightened. It is paperwork, Naomi. No, I said. It is my name missing from a transfer you told me was complete. For a moment, the kitchen was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator hum. Then Adrian laughed, but it sounded forced. You think you understand this because a lawyer used a few big words. Elise used simple words, I said. She said your copy did not tell the whole story. That wiped the smile off his face. He stepped closer, but I did not move back. Careful, he said. You are turning a family matter into a legal mess. It became a legal mess when you moved my home into your mother's name. Our home, he snapped. The words came out too fast. Then he corrected himself. The house. I heard the change. He did too. I picked up my phone and opened the note I had made after Maris left. Why did your mother know about the rest of my father's money? Adrian's face changed. Not anger first. Fear. Just one flash of it. But enough. What did she say? He asked. I stared at him. That was not denial. That was a question from someone who already knew there was something to explain. She said I should have let the house stay under family control before I buried the rest of my father's money in it. He looked toward the hallway, toward the picture of my father. Mom talks too much, he said. My throat tightened. So she knew. She guessed. She used the exact words from a private message I sent you. I said. His voice dropped. Do not start acting like a victim over every sentence. I almost broke then, not because he was loud, but because he sounded so much like the man who used to comfort me. Same voice, same face, same hands that had held mine beside my father's bed. But now those hands were on the back of a chair, gripping it like he wanted to throw it across the room. Did you show her my message? I asked. He looked away. That was enough. I stood up slowly and gathered the two files. You promised my father I would always have a safe place, I said. His eyes hardened. And you think dragging his name through this will bring him back? The words landed like a slap. But this time, I did not let them knock me down. No, I said. I think your fear of his name tells me where to look. I walked past him before he could answer, and locked myself in the small back room where I kept my father's old desk. My hands shook as I sent Elise everything. Maris's words, Adrian's reaction, the copy mismatch, the note about the private message. She called 10 minutes later. Naomi, she said, now we build the stack. Now we build the stack, Elise said. I sat at my father's old desk with the phone pressed to my ear. The room smelled faintly like dust and wood polish. I had not used that desk much after he died because sitting there made the loss feel too close. But that night, it felt like the right place to gather the truth. Elise told me not to think of the proof as one big answer. Think of it as steps, she said. One step shows he gave you an incomplete copy. One step shows the official file is missing your signature. One step shows notices may have gone somewhere else. One step shows Maris knew things she should not have known. And one step shows why they wanted the transfer done when they did. I wrote every word down. For the first time, the mess had shape. I sent Elise the recording from Maris, the messages from Adrian, the transfer copy, and every receipt I had saved. Then I opened my email and searched for the repair estimate I had sent Adrian months earlier. It was still there. Subject line, house repairs before winter. I had written to him about fixing the back room, repairing the porch steps, and using the last of my father's money to make the house steady for the future. I remembered sending that email while crying because spending that money felt like touching my father's last handprint on my life. Adrian had replied with only 5 words. We will handle it soon. At the time, I thought that meant we would repair the house together. Now I wondered if it meant something else. Elise asked me to forward the whole email thread without changing anything. Then she asked if I had any proof of when the mailing address changed or when Maris started receiving notices. I searched old photos first. That sounded silly, but I had taken pictures of everything after my father died. Flowers on the porch, paint samples, the garden, even piles of mail on the table when I was trying to show Adrian how messy the kitchen had become. One photo made my stomach drop. It showed a property envelope on the counter. The return address was connected to the records office, but the envelope was not addressed to me. It was addressed to Maris. The date on the photo was 2 weeks after I sent Adrian the repair email. I sent it to Elise. She called back within minutes. That matters, she said. It does not prove everything alone, but it helps show timing. Timing. That word kept coming back like a bell. Adrian said the transfer was for protection. Maris said it was family control, but the dates were starting to tell another story. First, I told Adrian I wanted to use my father's final money to repair the house. Then notices started going through Maris. Then Adrian showed me a copy that made the transfer look finished. Then the certified file showed my signature was missing. It was no longer a pile of pain. It was a pattern. That evening, Adrian sent me a new message. We can settle this quietly. No need to ruin everyone. A minute later, Maris sent one too. A quiet agreement would be wiser than public shame. I stared at both messages and felt my fear turn into something harder. They were not trying to comfort me. They were trying to close the door, before Elise opened the right one. I forwarded both messages to her. Her reply came back fast. Do not respond. The next exhibit is the timing of the address change. If that lines up with your repair email, their story gets much harder to defend. I looked at my father's picture on the desk. For the first time, I did not ask if he had failed to protect me. I asked what else Adrian had done right after learning I was ready to make the house stronger. Elise was right about the timing. The next morning, she sent me a scanned copy of the mailing update from the records office. It was not dramatic. It did not look like something that could break a marriage open. It was just a plain form with small boxes, dates, and signatures. But my hands went cold when I saw the date. The address linked to the house file had been updated to include Maris 2 days after I emailed Adrian about using my father's final money for repairs. 2 days. I read the date again, hoping I had misunderstood it. Then I opened my repair email and placed both pages side by side on my screen. My email to Adrian. House repairs before winter. Mailing update. Maris Vale added as contact address. The dates sat there like they were talking to each other. Elise called while I was still staring. This is the exhibit, she said. I swallowed. It proves they knew before the transfer. It helps show the transfer was not sudden, she said. It was not some emergency he created after everything fell apart. The planning began right after he learned you were going to put more of your father's money into the house. I looked across the room at the wall I had planned to repaint. The same wall my father once touched and said, a house should feel steady before winter. Adrian had read my repair email and saw something different. Not love, not grief, not a daughter trying to keep her father's promise alive. He saw value. Then Elise sent another file. This came from the title notes. She said, it is not the whole case by itself, but look at the date and wording. The note was short. Transfer requested before additional spouse-funded improvements. I read it 3 times. Additional spouse-funded improvements. That was me. That was my father's money. I felt my face go hot, then numb. For weeks, Adrian had told me the transfer was about protection. Maris had called it family control. But the record said the quiet part in official words. They wanted the transfer handled before I put more money into the house. Before I made it harder for them to push me out. Before my father's final gift became another reason I could stand up and say, this is mine too. I asked Elise, do you think he was already planning to leave me? She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, the transfer timing does not prove every part of his private plan. But it shows he was protecting his position before you knew you needed protection from him. That was enough, because I remembered the way Adrian had changed after my father died. The late nights, the locked laptop, the sudden talks about how marriage should not be a prison, the way he stopped saying our home and started saying the house. Now, those memories did not float around like random hurt. They lined up with the papers. That afternoon, Adrian tried one more time. He sent a message that said, we can end this clean if you stop trying to punish my mother. End this. He had not said fix this. He had not said save this. He had said end this. I forwarded it to Elise. Then I sat at my father's desk and wrote the truth in my timeline. Adrian started moving the house after he learned I wanted to use Dad's money to make it stronger. Under that, I wrote one more line. He was not protecting me. He was protecting the exit. For the first time, I understood the whole betrayal. Adrian had not only tried to take my house, he had tried to make sure that when he left, I would have nowhere safe to stand. 2 days later, Elise asked me to come to her office. She did not call it a hearing. She did not make big promises. She only said Adrian and Maris had been sent the formal challenge, and their side had agreed to a documented meeting before things went further. Documented, she said, means everyone needs to choose their words carefully. I wore the plain blue dress my father had once said made me look brave. I did not feel brave when I walked into that room. My hands were cold. My throat felt tight. But I carried the folder myself. Adrian was already there. Maris sat beside him, dressed like she was attending church instead of answering questions about my home. Adrian would not look at me at first. He looked at Elise, then at the folder, then at the table. A man from their side cleared his throat and said, "This appears to be a family misunderstanding over a transfer that was done for protection." Protection. That word had followed me like a bruise. Elise opened the certified file and placed the acknowledgement page in the center of the table. "Then let's begin with the protection," she said. "Where is Naomi's signature?" The room went still. Adrian leaned forward. There were many documents signed over the years. Elise did not raise her voice. That was not the question. She pointed to the official note. "Spouse signature not received." I looked at Adrian. For weeks, he had made that blank space feel like my shame. Now it sat between us as proof that his clean story was not clean at all. Their side tried again. "It may be a clerical issue." Elise placed Adrian's copy beside the certified page. Then why did the version shown to Naomi cut off the section where this missing acknowledgement would appear? Adrian's face hardened. It was just the copy I had. Elise nodded once and slid the next page forward. "This is the mailing update. Maris Vale was added as a contact address 2 days after Naomi emailed Adrian about using her father's remaining money for repairs." Maris shifted in her chair. Elise placed my repair email beside it. "House repairs before winter." Then she placed the title note beside that. "Transfer requested before additional spouse-funded improvements." No one spoke for a moment. I heard my own heartbeat. I heard the soft hum of the light above us. I heard Maris breathe in through her nose like she was trying not to lose control. Adrian finally said, "That note does not mean what she thinks it means." Elise looked at him, then explained what it means. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Maris spoke instead. "My son was trying to protect family property." Elise turned one page. "Family property funded in part by Naomi's father, maintained by Naomi, and transferred through a packet missing Naomi's acknowledgement." Maris's face flushed. "You are making this emotional." I surprised myself by answering. "It was emotional when you moved my father's picture." Everyone looked at me. My voice shook, but I kept going. "It was emotional when you told me his money did not give me a place here. It was emotional when Adrian promised my dying father I would always have a door I could open, then handed me papers meant to make me feel like that door was gone." Adrian stared at the table. Elise did not stop me. She only placed the last set of messages down. Adrian telling me the transfer was final. Adrian calling it protection. Adrian warning me not to waste my father's money. Adrian saying we could end this clean. Elise folded her hands. "The issue is not one blank line alone," she said. "It is the blank line, the incomplete copy, the changed mailing route, the timing after Naomi's repair email, and the shifting explanations. Together, they make this transfer something Naomi has every reason to question." That was the moment Adrian's story broke. Not loudly, not with shouting. It broke because the room no longer belonged to his version of events. For the first time, he could not use my grief, my confusion, or his mother's voice to cover the papers. The records had spoken first. And by the end of that meeting, the transfer was no longer a weapon he could hold over my head without consequence. By the next week, Adrian stopped saying the house was already gone. That was the first sign that something had changed. Before Elise placed the certified file on that table, he had spoken like a man holding all the keys. After the meeting, his messages became shorter, colder, careful in a way that almost made me laugh, except nothing about it felt funny yet. Elise called me with the update. "The transfer is being formally challenged." she said. That means they cannot keep using it as a clean weapon against you without answering the problems in the record. I sat at my father's desk and pressed my hand flat against the wood. So Maris cannot just throw me out. She cannot just wave that packet and pretend there are no questions. Elise said, the missing signature, the copy they showed you, the mailing change, and the timing all matter now. All matter now. For weeks, Adrian and Maris had acted like I was the only thing that did not matter. My name did not matter. My father's money did not matter. My grief did not matter. My fear did not matter. Now, the official file was saying otherwise. The consequences did not fall all at once. Real life was not like that. There was no judge banging a table and handing me peace in one sentence. But piece by piece, Adrian lost the power he had used against me. First, Elise sent notice that I was questioning the transfer and preserving my claim. That meant Adrian could not keep pretending everything was settled. Then the title issue made the house harder for Maris to treat as a clean asset. She could not brag about it, threaten me with it, or quietly use it without the problem following her. Then Adrian's own words came back to him. His copy did not match the certified file. His reason for the transfer kept changing. His messages showed he wanted me to stop asking before the records were checked. His warning about my father's money proved he knew what I was trying to protect. Elise told me their side wanted to talk settlement, not because they were sorry, because they were exposed. When Adrian finally called, his voice had none of the calm power he used when he first showed me the papers. Naomi, he said, we can fix this without destroying everyone. I almost asked him where that mercy had been when his mother turned my father's picture face down. I almost asked him why my peace only mattered after his name was tied to a bad file. But I did not give him the fight he wanted. What exactly do you want to fix? I asked. He was quiet. That silence felt like karma. Because the truth was, Adrian did not want to fix what he had done. He wanted to fix what people could prove. Maris lost her voice too, at least in my house. She stopped walking in without knocking. She stopped calling it hers. When she came once to collect a box Adrian had left, she stood on the porch and waited for me to open the door. That small thing should not have felt huge, but it did. For so long, she had treated my doorway like I was the guest. Now she stood outside it, and I decided whether to let her in. The biggest consequence was not that Adrian looked scared or that Maris looked smaller. It was that the story no longer belonged to them. Their version had cracks in every place they had tried to hide me. The missing signature weakened the transfer. The incomplete copy weakened Adrian. The timing weakened Maris. And the truth gave me leverage. Elise said I had two paths. We could push harder and place everything into the official record, or we could use the proof to force a quiet agreement that protected me without turning every wound into a public fight. That choice stayed with me all night, because part of me wanted peace. But another part of me wondered if peace built on silence would let them pretend they had only made a mistake. That choice stayed with me all night. I sat at my father's desk with Elise's notes in front of me, and the house quiet around me. For the first time in weeks, the silence did not feel like fear. It felt like space. No one was standing over me. No one was telling me what I was allowed to ask. No one was turning my father's love into a weapon. By morning, I knew what I wanted. I did not need to burn everything down just to prove I had been hurt. But I also would not let Adrian and Maris bury the truth under a quiet agreement that made them look innocent. Elise helped me choose a path that protected me and kept the record clear enough that they could not pretend this was only a misunderstanding. After that, the house changed slowly, not because the walls moved, because I did. I put my father's picture back in the hallway, not hidden on a shelf, not turned face down, not placed where Maris thought grief should stay quiet. I cleaned the glass, straightened the frame, and stood there until I could look at him without feeling like I had failed him. Then I painted the small back room. The same room I had once wanted to repair with the last money he left me. I chose a soft color and worked with the windows open. For once, I was not painting over pain. I was making space for a life that belonged to me. Adrian still sent messages for a while. Maris tried to speak through other people, but their voices did not enter the center of my days anymore. I let Elise answer what needed answering. I let silence answer the rest. The file that once scared me stayed in a drawer. Not because it stopped mattering, but because it no longer had to sit in my hands to remind me I was safe. The missing signature had opened the truth, but I did not want my whole life to become a fight over a blank line. So I want to ask you one thing. If someone uses grief, family, and love to take away your safety, is quiet peace enough, or should the truth stay on record, so they cannot call it a mistake later? I believe justice can be quiet and still be strong. And I believe healing starts when you stop protecting the people who used your trust against you. If this story stayed with you, subscribe when you are ready, and stay close to stories where the truth arrives slowly, but it still arrives. That evening, I stood at the front door with my hand on the lock. For years, I thought my father had left me only a house. But he had left me more than that. He had left me the courage to know when a door was mine, and the strength to stop asking cruel people for permission to open it.